Hello and welcome to the Overly Animated Podcast, where we take animation seriously. We talk everything animation here, including Infinity Train, which we'll be getting into right now. I'm Dylan Hysen, and today I'm joined by Delaney Stovall.
Hey, y'all.
Alex Bonilla.
Welcome.
And Ali Martin.
Hello.
We're here to talk all of Infinity Train Book 2, Cracked Reflection, I believe. The finale just aired tonight on Cartoon Network. It's been airing nightly this week in early January, and we're here to talk about the entire season. We talked about Infinity Train Book 1 previously. Find our podcast on that at overlyanimated.com. Search for our Infinity Train iTunes feed at overlyanimated.com, at iTunes, overlyanimated.com/iTunes, and our YouTube is youtube.com/overlyanimated. Hopefully we'll have a podcast or two more coming up on Infinity Train Book 2. But we gotta talk about this whole season. We're gonna have the finale on the mind because we just watched it, but in play is all 10 episodes. Make sure you've seen all 10 episodes. Spoiler alert for all of Book 2 of Infinity Train. Watch it, come back and listen to this. First thing is just thoughts on Book 2, whatever's on your mind, and if you want to work in how you're feeling about it compared to Book 1. It's not important, the ranking, but just as a reference point to how much you like Book 2, more or less than Book 1. Delaney.
So, Book 2 is just incredible. I just really I've enjoyed it every day this week, and it was I guess I didn't watch the first season this way, so this is different for me. And so it felt like a little bit more of an experience to watch, every night. And just with my schedule, wasn't able to do that with Book 1. But it's just really, it's like this cinematic experience and character journey. And I think really what's really incredible about Book 2 is that in relation to Book 1, we had Book 1. It felt a little formulaic. It's funny. It's formulaic, but we haven't Infinity Train is its own show, and they do some incredible stuff, and they have their own universe, but still they're, you don't really know what's going to happen, and yet they lulled us into this false sense of security. And so you're in the first part of Book 2, and you're like, okay, I kind of know what's going on, and then they're like, nope, it's just, pardon the horrible pun, but off the rails, oh my god. And I think that's really what. And I understand that this show was ordered as 20 episodes and it was meant to be this way. I just am honestly just so blown away by the show, the content, the characters, the journey. To really, for me, this is up there with Over the Garden Wall for a limited run, episodic. And obviously this is 20 episodes, but really these are contained. They talk about Infinity Train being an anthology, and this is just incredible. I'm not really sure yet if I can say one's better than the other, because season 2 builds off of season 1, and it kind of, especially you kind of know what's going on, but then they're like, no, you don't. We're just going to do this.
Yeah. So maybe we'll work to a better thought on.
Well, they're different. They're different shows. It's kind of like Black Mirror. Each episode is its own thing, but it's an anthology series. But this is one universe, but everything's always changing. It's incredible. And I've really enjoyed this season. This is, I was worried. Infinity Train season 1 was so good. And I don't know how they did it. They are it's even better now. I don't know how they managed it.
Awesome. I like that Black Mirror comparison. Yeah, I like Book 1's this total mystery thing, and then Book 2 loses a lot of the mystery, and it's such a completely different show. Honestly, I really agree with that. It's a lot of different genre stuff happening. Alex, how are you feeling about Infinity Train Book 2?
I love Book 2 of Infinity Train, and I agree with a lot of what the lady mentioned, with this feeling like a totally new experience in terms of I don't want to really compare Book 1 and Book 2 because they feel like such separate things. As mentioned, Book 1 has all the mystery elements, but Book 2 gets by because, MT is such a treasure. Or I guess Lake now. We can say Lake.
I think ideally we would call her Lake at this point, but
okay.
I think it's understandable if we say MT given she was called that most of the series.
Lake
Right.
is a treasure.
Yeah,
right?
Lake is a treasure. She is the anchor of this season. Her struggles with identity throughout the season were very relatable. Not to say that Tulip wasn't a relatable character as well, but I do think that there's something even more universal about the feelings that that Lake is going through in this in this experience. And like at the same time, and they also throw in some extra stuff with Jesse, which gets you by through the middle chunk of the season. These final 3 episodes, especially, were real heavy hitters in terms of the emotional strings being pulled, the character design. It definitely felt a lot more sci-fi even than for the first book in terms of the different kinds of design choices they were making there. So,
Like, how is it more sci-fi after we had the Chrome car? It's shocking.
Right. But they definitely did a lot more. So yeah, all of book 2 was really great, and I think that there's definitely a lot to dig into with regards to Lake's experience and like how it ended felt very, very like a bow on the present sort of thing, where like it's very pretty and all, and I don't feel like I need to see more of that. Like it feels like a much deserved and perfect ending to leave it off. If there's no more Infinity Train, this feels like a very sweet place to end it. So. Book 2 was all around a really awesome experience to go through, just like book 1 was.
Nice. That would be sad if there's no more Infinity Train.
It would be,
agree,
but like
though.
I can like come to terms with it a lot easier.
I think also what you're saying is like if it's a good ending for Lake, at the very least.
Yeah, and like as Delaney mentioned, like it is kind of upon a mirror experience where we have the first half of the show to Tulip and the second half of the show to Lake, and it all feels tied up in a way, and so yeah, it's symmetry.
Yeah, that would feel right, but I think you brought up that this feels like a perfect HBO Max type thing to do for them to do.
Also, yes,
I'd be pretty surprised if they didn't do that. Like, we're already seeing in Summer Camp Island on HBO Max, like this seems like a good draw to get the service. Anyway, Allie, how are you feeling about Infinity Train Book 2?
Well, like Alex and Delaney said, I definitely can't compare it to Book 1 because it builds off of that. But I loved the whole thing, the experience of watching it, every episode, the characters. Even I didn't think I was gonna like Alan Dracula for the most part, but he wound up being great, and everything is based off of Ghibli anyway. No, I really enjoyed it. I thought I mean I agree with what both of you guys said also with it being a really not bittersweet, but like sort of perfect fanficky ending. Not fanfic, but like just perfect.
I mean, you're allowed
story.
to call it fanfic. Like there's a sunset going on.
Because it's so perfect, and like I kind of expected it to go that way, but then I second guessed myself because then I expected everything to go terribly wrong after episode 8. But I'm very happy with everything. Really, I don't really have any complaints except for if it ends and we don't get to see the kids that are stuck, because it's going to bother me.
Yeah, that would seem like
That's
the most obvious direction to take. To book 3 if that happened.
I mean, just if you could focus on those two and dismantle it with like another new person.
I was not feeling very positive about them after their role.
Me neither.
Oh,
It's terrible.
So, I wouldn't be. It's
so
not going to be super hype,
uncomfortable.
but yeah, they were more villains. That'd be interesting to start off as like take the villains and then make them the heroes of the next.
Well,
season.
no, not even start there. Just like put another passenger on. Make
Oh yeah, you could do that too, and then they interact with them. Yeah, okay.
Especially if it's an HBO Max show, I could see it going that way.
I mean, this would be kind of interesting. It's sort of they could kind of take it this kind of like Divergent Dauntless kind of route, and then they kind of flip it.
Yeah, yeah.
Isn't that a terrible reference? It's great.
Yes.
You're welcome,
I can't
guys.
believe you just referenced Divergent. So I'm very happy with that. This season was great. It was such a different experience because I feel like book 1, I came away, it was so fun to watch the entire, and I love the mystery. And then you get some answers that are satisfying, some things not satisfying. And then I went to rewatch book 1. It didn't play as well for me back just because the mystery is so important to that season.
Yeah.
Right.
And this season had no mystery. And I was pretty thrown off by that most of this week watching it, because you have to really adjust to this being a new show. And I do think it loses a lot, like, daily with the mystery. I wasn't as attached to the daily goings on nearly, I think, as in book one. But I really love this finale tonight. I was coming in here. I have a list of like reasons why this is worse than the first season. I had it all prepared, and I'm not sure about that anymore. I love this.
Oh,
I love tonight so much. I still think those things are valid, and I may probably
Dylan made fan art before the episode.
It's beautiful. You need to know. Only thing you need to know about me and Infinity Train Book 2 is I'm so attached to Jesse and Lake.
Yeah,
it's.
I think all of us.
Do they have a ship name? Do we get to name them?
We only figured out one of their names tonight, so we get to
exactly. So
yeah, maybe we can name them. Yeah, Lake Jesse
Is
is
gonna be named it after like a stroke, metal stroke. I don't know.
Oh yeah, because we could have like swing. Oh, okay.
We could think of some directions.
He's gonna do what is it? Freestyle now.
Timberlake. Is there anything there?
I'm telling you, it's Jake. The ship name is Jake.
Just Jake.
Jake is boring.
There has to be something better than that.
Kind of we'll think about it. Anyway, they're like, I love them romantically, but romantically or not, their dynamic this season is the heart of the season, along with Lake's identity journey. And I love how the season ties them kind of together. I'm shocked it works so well.
I'm shocked they did it.
I don't know, just going to that last episode, like Jesse's off the train and I'm like, is this really going to be the focus? But yes, like this finale is just so, I think, perfect for wrapping up like what is such a heart of the season. I'm such a sucker for these, friend romantic question mark kind of the backbones of the season where you see each character's arc is highlighted and they're supporting each other, and this one really hit for me. I really love everything they did with Jesse and Lake, and I love this ending for them. It's not it's not fanfic because they didn't kiss at the end. That's what I'll say. The brother had to come in and ruin their moment. But he's cool too. Fine, it's fine. But I don't. We need to
figure out their names, so he's fine.
We need to see them in book 3 so they can kiss. But other than that, it was so perfect. And yeah, obviously, it's gonna end with Lake naming herself, and I think that was gorgeous. Yeah, I think the finale is like the highlight. Like episode 9. Is just, I don't even know if it's like, it's hard to even tell if 9 is good or not. It's just like, I mean, obviously it's good, but is it like, how did it start to evaluate? It's just this insane sci-fi thing, that is super notable. And then 10, I just love for, Jesse and Lake's arcs. That's definitely my favorite episode. And I think like, as opposed to like, Infinity Train Book 1, which is like the finale. I think the finale is great, but it's like, oh, like it's so much about the mystery that the conclusion's never going to live up to it. So it's like almost the experience of watching the week is better than the finale itself. I think this season, the finale is better than the experience. Not the experience was bad, but the finale is the highlight here. So it's really different things, and it is really hard to compare them and evaluate. But I think the headline is just like, this was such a great season, and both seasons so good and so different. I totally think they could keep going, with, I mean, I feel like this season didn't need to be about, Lake. I feel like I have a lot of thoughts on that.
I'll say I kind of think the season needed to be about Lake, because that was what, like, kind of the main hook they leave you with in the first season, because that's like a big character that wanders off to do their own thing. I mean, otherwise it would have been either a totally new character, or I guess like One Wonder Atticus. But like I feel like that is what they do in Chrome Car is such an important thing that like it makes sense that that's your jumping off point for a season 2, and I think they handled it perfectly. And also, I just want to loop back to something you said with like the first half of the season maybe not going as fast. And I will say as well, like I took a while to get into this. Like at the first couple of episodes, I was a little skeptical, and she was like, "Well, I mean, it's good, but it's not as good as book 1." And I think that part of it for me was like just seeing like Lake kind of help Jesse go through the motions of the train and all, and I'm not that interested in that. But once like by the midpoint of the season is where it starts turning back into Lake's side of the situation, and that's where I got more invested. But I think the fact that you enjoy the Lake and Jesse dynamic, speaks to how good this show did. Where like even if you care about the romance or you don't, but I think there's enough here where like even without that factor, it's still an impressive story to work with.
Yeah, they're very different halves to the season because episodes like 1 to 6, 6 is kind of a turning point, are like pretty low key and about Jesse and Lake's our journey and stuff, and then 7 to 10 are just kind of all out plot here, including 8, which is insane, and 9, which is also insane in a different way. I mean, I have more thoughts on this later, but I do think the Chrome Car stuff was an obvious sequel hook, but I think like it's a jump to take this one episode with like a pretty loose mythology and try to expand it into an entire season. And I think that they had some success and some more questionable things, but ultimately it didn't really matter, I think, because the finale was so great. But I think that's a discussion point for a little later in the podcast. Let's talk about the finale more. I mean, how we just saw it. I got in a second viewing of it, but it's still pretty fresh for us on the podcast. Like, I think like the highlights are, we learn a lot about the Infinity Train and the mythology behind it. Then they get off the train and Lake names herself at the end. I feel like all these huge events. Alex, what was your biggest reactions, I guess, watching the finale?
Are we just talking about episode 10 or can we
9 and 10?
episode 9 and 10? Oh, okay. Well, episode 9 was my biggest reaction because that moment where Lake sticks out her hand to get the number and it just goes through her, and the frustration had been building throughout the season of, hey, I'm a person, I deserve to be seen, and like the literal version of nothing in this room, it recognizes you as an entity. It refuses to recognize you, and so she goes on the rampage of just like bashing robots while tears are coming down her eyes because she can't process that none of these things even like want to consider her a person, which is her driving interest right now. So that part especially hurt because it does feel like a good culmination of the struggle that she's been dealing with throughout the season, and it's something that affects very hard to anybody struggling with identity. That there's like a tipping point there where you're literally not being seen. So I think that moment illustrated it beautifully. And of course it ends with like the surprise, hey, 1-1's here, remember 1-1? You remember him, he's a funny comic relief guy. And then we just like hard cut to episode 10. So yeah, that ending scene of episode 9 was great.
Nice. And he's the conductor. That was big, seeing the conductor again. Or the steward again, yeah. I mean, he's both of them, right? I guess, yeah.
Yeah. Both of them.
Yeah, he's both of them. Delaney, what was your biggest reaction watching the finale?
So I'm watching the finale. And I'm like, oh my god, I really hope the train's not eating people.
Yeah, same.
I was like, please no. Like the whole time I was like, I am so scared about what we were about to learn. And what Alex was saying, like, it actually turned out to be way worse. Like, I mean, the train isn't eating people, but like, I mean, it was heartbreaking when it went through her. Like, I was like, oh my god, like, devastated. But it's just, like, it was just beautiful to watch. But also when, you know, there's just so much with Lake, and, you know, it's not about her being Chrome. She's not a reflection. But then, like, when she's like, look, I have a number, I was like, oh my god, tears. I was like, my soul hurts. It was like, oh my god. And it was just, and we'll talk about this more later, where like the weakest part of this season is like the flex and all that. Like, no one cares. I mean, I care that they're gay cops.
I care, but like, yeah.
So do I.
But other than that, I don't care. And like, okay, they're gay. That's great. That's the only part I care about. Other than that, I don't care. But I know it's shocking. And I mean, I got turned off as soon as we brutally murdered one of them, and I was like, oh god.
Yeah.
But there's just the emotion and like power behind the finale. Like, it's just like I really like because that's the thing. Like I was watching the season and I don't care about Jesse. Like I care about Jesse because Lake cares about Jesse.
Exactly.
And they're adorable because Lake cares about Jesse.
They care about each other. That's why they're adorable.
They do, but like I'm just saying, like I don't care about Jesse. I care about Jesse because Lake does, and it's just, oh my god, it's so great. It was just I think just the emotion in this finale, and that's what you were talking about. The mystery in book 1 is what sells it, but here it really is. It's Lake. Lake sells the whole season, and this finale, it was just we go from like literally as far bottom as we can go. You know, she's. You know, it goes right through her. She starts breaking stuff and then she's free. So it's incredible.
Yeah, nice. I care about Jesse. I'll defend Jesse. Don't worry on this podcast.
Yeah, I don't have like a problem with Jesse. He's just like a noodle. Like, I don't know.
I'll defend Jesse. It's fine. Allie, what was your biggest reactions for the finale?
Well, I mean, definitely like the weird Death Stranding sci-fi stuff, because I kind of expected it, and like Delaney said, I thought that the train was eating people, but I'm glad we got like more of a sort of a look into how the train works or how 1-1 is running the train. I like that we saw, well, actually, I mean, no, not the tape. What was it? The weird loops of like passengers stuck and like why they're stuck. I thought that was done really well. At least not like horrifying for kids in a way, but they did show like a dead animal and you know they're getting away with more stuff.
Poor lizard.
Yeah. It feels bad.
And then she talks about it. Lake is like, what do I need to do? Kill a lizard? Whoa. Like,
I didn't think we talked about the lizard part.
I was also, you know, I mean, I shipped it, but I also, to attest to like Jesse's, not like his really character, but you, at least in my case, I came to like him a lot more because I was like sort of with how Lake saw him in the beginning, like he's a stupid, annoying jerk, and then you like as you follow both of them, you, in my case, I came to love both of them. So just like even as separate characters, they're such good friends. Like even if you don't ship it, they helped each other grow and figure stuff out about themselves, and I thought it was done really well, like beautifully, and culminating in this. Actually, my biggest reaction was definitely 1-1 just going with the loophole and going, yeah, sure, why not? Because I didn't expect it at least to go like that, but then I was like, you know what? I really should have expected this.
Yeah, 1-1 looping. That was pretty.
1-1 is a treat. Like I adore.
Yeah, the looping was really funny.
That was great.
It was good. Yeah, obviously. I mean, my biggest stuff was Jesse coming back and him and Lake had a few moments on the train, and then when they got off, and them beside the lake together, and then like naming herself. It's all intertwined. It's all amazing. So happy with that. Like. I didn't expect to get such a happy ending after how brutal this yesterday and part of today was, right? Like, I think there's something to talk about maybe a little later, but there's some pretty crazy tonal shifts, I think, in the season, where they're doing a lot of different things. In terms of Lake, so Lake gets her number by reflecting Jesse's number. We go all in with the reflection stuff here, and then at the end, Lake picks the name Lake, you know, probably in part because Lake is reflective, and a lake is like not her, like I guess also her. The lake itself is reflective, and she's not worried about reflecting things anymore. And it's part of who she is. She's reflective, I guess. Yeah. I think all that's gorgeous. Like how they
it was done. It was handled a lot. I expected it to be handled more like not. I don't want to say poorly, but less beautifully. For lack of a better phrase.
What do we think of the name Lake?
It's
nice.
It's A+.
A+. Yeah. That's high praise for the
going off of Tulip too. It's like I feel like there's a theme, possibly.
Oh, like a flower, a lake. Yeah.
Yeah. Next guy's gonna be mountain. No, I'm just kidding.
Paying homage and not in a vague way, but it's completely separate, and paying homage to who like she was and is, and it's also
wow, yeah, I didn't even think of that.
It's also like
Lake,
yeah.
The lake doesn't get to be afraid of water anymore.
Yeah.
It's like,
It's very-
I also think it's just like that the lake's there when she gets back. That's such a huge moment in her life and defining. So it like makes sense to be something from that moment.
It's like really good irony. I rarely see that. Most of the time, it winds up being terrible irony.
I do think, yeah, I think it's irony because it's reflective and stuff, and it's something she'd be afraid of before. So yeah, all the stuff with Lake and Jesse, they do get off the train. I think it caught me a little off guard how the series shifted to Lake wanting to get her number and get off the train at the end. I think that wasn't necessary. That wasn't like a stated objective from the beginning of the show, and then it kind of it turns into that. I don't think she's going on some sort of journey.
It definitely felt like to me that she was just trying to get off the train.
I thought at the beginning it was established. I didn't watch it through. Second time.
My interpretation was that as Lake is getting closer to Jesse, she begins to consider the possibility that getting off the train is actually possible for her.
Jesse tells her, "I want to get off the train with you." I don't think she'd considered it before.
Right. I think that's like a turning point. From the very beginning, Lake does want to be her own person. And that in itself is something that drives her through. But the specific thing of getting off the train as part of that individualism doesn't come until like midway through the season, I'd say.
Yeah, I agree with that. I kind of love that. I think it's like really well handled because it's not such a clean narrative thing that's said in the beginning. It's an objective throughout the season. It's like it feels like we're going on the journey with her. At the beginning of episode 1, she's just wandering through the cars, and then she's slowly like it's clearly important to her. Stuff about identity and things not being forced on her, and as she's spending time with Jesse and stuff, she's gaining a clearer sense of like who she is and what she wants. I do really like how all of it's handled. It was an interesting experience watching it through. And then, the other big thing is all the stuff I think Alex and other people talked about with the episode 9's presenting with all this crazy mythology with how the numbers are gotten. I think, this season, I think really helps book 1 a lot. Not that this is like a super important thing, but I think some of us were dissatisfied with a few different things in book 1. I mean, a lot is left open or not necessarily explained. Like, I think episode 9 explains the tapes really well. Like, in those, it's like, why are there just tapes of people's memories? Why do they get sucked in the tapes? I don't know if it makes sense why they get sucked in the tapes still, but like the tapes are used. My interpretation is for the number robots to evaluate and give the number. Like, that's why they make the tapes. So I like that a lot. The season.
Well, we're doing it backwards because like we get on book 1 and the train's broken.
Yeah, and that's something that's important this season too with the Apex people and stuff. And we see 1-1 at the end. I think this season, if you listen to our finale podcast last season, I know Michelle and a few others were really unhappy with kind of the answer of like the numbers are this like morality thing of like, it's evaluating you. And this season is like aware that was kind of, loosely handled and spends a lot of time deconstructing that concept, I think.
Yes.
There's one episode with episode 3 where Lake is just like, yeah, you do this to lower your numbers, be a better person. Like she's just saying that the entire time to Jesse. Like,
are you learning anything?
You're learning yet? Yeah, right. Like, if the show is like aware that it was like a very parabolic ending, I think, and it is trying to play with that and give us a further explanation, I think, in this finale with the evaluation, and then have someone who's like not part of that system. I think MT's journey or Lake's journey plays into that. Like she's like outside of the system and not being evaluated, and how can she still get off the train? I think this is a big strength of the season.
Well, that's really what's so beautiful about like the story is that like, I don't know, like I just, obviously we don't need to be convinced that Lake is a person, but that's what the season's doing, and it's convincing Lake that she's a person. And I think that's what's really so compelling about this season is like in season 1, we just want Tulip to get off the train because she wants to get off the train. She wants to figure out how it works. And then Lake, she's figuring out that she's like, who she is. And Jesse is too because Jesse's struggle is identity. He didn't have one really. Like he just went with what everyone else told him to do. He just wanted everyone to like him. And it's just so incredible, this journey we go on with Lake, and kind of what we were talking about, like with what we've talked about previously with Genlock, is when identity is not just a subject, it is like what ties a season or a series together. And that's really what they execute so well here, is it's not just Lake's character, it's Jesse's character, it's the entire plot of the season. And then it even boils down to really how the train operates. Like, you go on the train, it's all about who you are and what you've done. And I think that's really what's so beautiful about it, especially at the end with Lake. She's afraid of her reflection. She spray paints everything black. And obviously for like literal reasons, because like they're going to like kill her. But also this, at the end, she accepts that she's Chrome, that she is reflective, but she is her own person, but she just also happens to be Chrome.
Yeah, I think that's great, and dive into that a little bit more in a second. But Alex, if you want to respond to what I said, which was Delaney's moved on to the more important topic. But yeah,
right. I just wanted to briefly give a little bit of pushback with regards to this necessarily helping season one's looseness of this handling, because I think the arguments for book one was more of why does this train have the right to impose a certain moral code, and this season does not touch on that at all. Like, it shows you how it's doing it in terms of like, well, look, we put the people in the pods and we take their brains out and we judge them based on our code, but that doesn't tackle the actual base of what is this train doing, picking people out from random, trying to solve their problems that may not even be problems in their minds, sort of thing. So like, I get what you're saying in terms of like this explaining it a lot more, but I don't think that if you had a problem in book one with the general idea of a train imposing this kind of morality on people, I don't think that book two helps at all in terms of that.
It doesn't give an origin to why this is happening. And I think that's something that would be great to be tackled still as we dive more in future seasons. I would say yes, but it challenges the legitimacy. Like in book one, it seems so important and it's like everything to Tulip's journey and it's how Tulip gets off the train. This season, it's like we're actively kind of mocking this concept, and we're like we have characters taking advantage of it one way or another, that people want to build up their score just because they think they should stay on the train. Lake's like, this is how you can beat the train and get off the train. And then at the end, it's like, here's someone who is outside of the system and does get off the train. So I think we're basically like, we're minimizing its big legitimacy and importance, would be my argument.
Well, I've never interpreted the train as, like, I understand there's like a general consensus, but I never interpreted the train as it being about morality. Like,
yeah, this season presents it as solving your problems at a turning point in your life or something. It's like
right, which I got that from season one, which I understand that, like, that might, it was ambiguous at the end, and it was different, especially because of like, Amelia wasn't like a great person, but I guess that's like, I don't think it wasn't really a problem to solve. I guess just better expressed.
Because
Tulip's like, because I asked this, like, I'm watching with my fiance, we love Infinity Train, so we start up the new season and I'm like, what was Tulip's problem? Like, I was like, I don't even remember because I haven't rewatched in a bit. And she was like, oh yeah, she was running away from her parents' divorce. And so that's, I think, and then Jesse was running away from what he did to his brother. So I don't think it's necessarily this morality.
Yeah, I mean, that was a little bit up for debate too, but just the general, like, there's a magic train that's solving people's problems. Right. It's still a little bit of a weird concept, I mean, to say the least.
I mean, it's kind of like the Polar Express.
Yeah, we've compared. Yeah, we've done
comparison. I mean, it's literally the Polar Express. And I also think, like, I prefer to know the inside parts of the train. Like, seeing the tape car was really cool. And as opposed to the why. Like, to me, like, that defeats the purpose of sci-fi and fantasy, is knowing the why such a thing exists. like
the season was about the how in a lot of ways.
Yeah, the how. And the first season, it was broken. We fixed the train. So that was something that I think was an interesting journey to go on, was we didn't even understand what was going on, and then we actually fixed it. And then now we got to see how the train is supposed to operate. And so that was another like really interesting thing, I think, was to see how the train is supposed to work. Like, you know, when we see those creatures in the tape car, at first you're like, oh my God. But then we're like, oh, right, it's fine now. Like, they're not trying to kill you. And so I think that's really not sure what I'm trying to say here, but
yeah, and I think bringing up the creatures, another thing the season dives into is the mechanics of these like not human things existing on the train, which I want to get to later. But an impression I got, speaking of the train's mythology, is that episode 9 paints everything as very mechanical for me. Like, yes. Season 1, I was like, this is just magic. It's a magic train. It's a magic train. It's just like, this is a part of how like this world's religion or something works. There's just a high level magic train. But I'm now entertaining the thought a lot that someone or a species of alien or something created this train. Like one frequently references code and stuff. I think
right, like it's very computer. Like the code is, and there was a lot of code references just in these 2 episodes.
So I totally think we could get eventually into like who created the train.
Right.
I imagine we would eventually get into that. Okay, so yeah, I mean, I think a lot of this is interesting. We can come back to the train's mythology as it comes up. But Delaney also brought up Lake's journey, and I think gave a good summary of a lot of what's great about it. And we are hopefully planning a podcast just on this topic, so we don't need to get into it too much because we're going to get into it more later. But the season is a lot about Lake's journey of identity and what she's going through. Allie, do you have how are you feeling after the finale on what Lake's gone through? Do you have any high level thoughts on her journey throughout the season?
High level, okay. Well, I don't know if we can clarify. Can we assume that their pronouns are female also? Just because?
Yeah, we didn't hear anything differently.
Yeah, I mean, considering that, I thought it was handled incredibly well, especially because of the ending. Again, it feels like a perfect ending to like a fan fiction. Like obviously her journey was really dark and really disturbing, especially when she had to murder people. But
yeah.
That's I guess that's the way of the world that she came from, and it sucks, but she dealt with it in the right way, I guess, to come to where she ended up in the end. I don't really have any words because I'm kind of floored with how well they handled it. It was unexpected.
She like seizes control of her situation and establishes her own. Not that she didn't have it before, but in the way she wants her own legitimacy and identity, and does escape the train. Mm-hmm. That's interesting about like that's the world she came from, is being dark, and like that's maybe why she had to like go get dark to kill those cops, because it's such a repressive world that she came from. I like that take on that. This is a random thought, but I totally like my headcanon would be Lake would eventually identify as non-binary.
Right.
In the real world.
Definitely.
Yeah. So much like great fanfic potential with Lake and Jess and everything. It's like they could totally just do a spin-off series about Lake's reintegration into the world and stuff now.
Maybe they should.
Maybe they should. It would be great. Alex, what are you thinking about Lake's arc after the finale?
And I really loved it, and I think that it hits on. I think that the best part of it is that frustration of wanting to be identified as something, and people around you rejecting that or ignoring that at every corner, and like that slowly builds and slowly gets more and more frustrating. I mean, from the very beginning, like you have Jessie just like assuming, like calling her Chrome Girl, and she gets upset at that. And so, like from the very beginning, we set up that she's very sensitive about that side of her. And then as you go through the episodes, it evolves into more of like, I want to be my own person. I want to be my own identity. I want to not be just thought of as this reflection person that I used to be. So seeing that develop over the season definitely felt very heavy. And I will say with episode 8, I get that people don't like the Chrome policeman, but I will say it's all worth it for episode 8 because the Ben
All
Mendelsohn.
worth it for the murder.
Yeah,
yes,
man.
it's worth it for the murder.
I agree.
Mace, Ben Mendelsohn gives an amazing voice performance, and Mace in that episode does an excellent job of twisting the knife over and over and over again for Lake, making her question her identity, repeatedly using phrases like, "Look, this is all you're ever going to be. You're stuck in the same place. You can't consider being a new person," and that kind of gaslighting and refusal to recognize someone for who they want to be, like that. That sends Lake into a murderous rage, so, and it's very relatable in that sense. So the arc happened very naturally, I'd say, and it resolved itself in a very beautiful way in terms of Jesse going back and giving her the opportunity to now she'll be able to finally be her own individual without fear of reprisal, and. MT is in love with the new life that she is now able to live, and I'm happy for her.
Yeah, I don't know why I'm so shocked, because it's like you guys said, the show is about identity, so it was done perfect. Well, not the show. I'll say the season.
This season, yeah. I think a lot more so than last season. Mentioned Ben Mendelsohn and Steve is voiced by Bradley Whitford. Big name actors for the Mirror Police. Yeah, it's interesting.
In a way, I feel like season 1 was sort of about identity, because it was still about what you did in the past and what you'll do like in the future as the person you want to be. But this was like a different kind of.
Maybe the Infinity Train is inherently about identity in that way. I like that. Yeah, I love all your thoughts on Lake's arc, and I love what Alex had to say about episode 9 too, with that moment with Lake. All of that's great, and we're hoping to talk more about that too, and I'm sure it'll come up as we hit on these other topics, including Jesse, who I think is just central to what Lake goes through.
Yeah.
And the show often is telling Lake that she's like a support, like she's invented to be a support for Jesse. Like that's kind of how 1-1 tries to present it to her at the end, and that's really terrible. But I think actually Jesse's like a support to her. That's how it's presented to us in our journey. Jesse's like a big support piece for Lake's journey, because that's kind of how we start the season and end the season. We never leave her perspective. I think we see, a new passenger, that's going to be our new character in Jesse, and he is, I think, a co-lead of the season. But certainly the season never questions that Lake is the main character. But I will take the Jesse defense. I like Jesse from the start. I think he was just a big goof from episode 1, and I thought he was cute. And clearly he is a disrupted, clearly he has some bad things going on. He's too fawning over trying to people please and stuff. And when you're that age, that's really dangerous, because some bad.
Would you go as far
to
say this? He could be a pushover.
Pushover. Yeah. I think the thing with them slightly terrorizing his brother is the very sanitized version of what this would play out in real life. I think he'd be doing some really bad things. So, but I think it's understandable. It's a quality that a lot of us can understand, if not relate to a large extent from that age. And he's, he came in with a low number because he just had this he needs some pointing in the right direction. Otherwise he's a good kid. I think that makes sense. And quickly takes to Lake, does, say some questionable things, but is incredibly validating and supporting to what she's going through constantly, I think. And always there for her. That's very important to him. And their friendship, I think, is blossoms throughout the season. She is helping him with his issues. And it starts out with here's how you got to get off the train, but it turns into concern about someone, probably the closest person she's ever been to. And, Jesse, like we brought up, Jesse wants to bring her off the train with him, and like she's pretty floored by that, and then they attempt to, but then he's like cares about her to such an extent that he gets re-abducted by the train because he's like, still has a giant problem. I'm like, how is Jesse getting back on the train? And it wasn't that he forced his way back on; it's that he had such a huge problem with Lake being stuck there that the train took him back. I think that's a really clever device. Yeah, I think that's what happened. Yeah.
I thought he was just like wandering through the forest like, train, pick me up again, please.
It's a little ambiguous because the tape cuts off, but that's like, I think the tape cuts off because that's when the train takes him back.
Yeah,
that's what I assume.
He had such a, like, I feel like it is really convenient and stupid, but I think it's like really powerful also and kind of clever. He's so concerned about like that the train then takes him back, and he fights to get off with her, and it's like a lot of it is about how he is such a great support system for Lake, but also I think he does go through his own really nice journey in some of these early episodes, especially episode 4 when we see the video with Nate. We also, in episode 3, we hear about him on the swim team and being a pushover, in that regard, and just trying to make everyone happy. And I think I think a lot of it is him standing up for himself, because he stands up to the train. He's like, I want to get off here with my friends, and he gets that. So I think that also is part of his journey. I think what's something that really impresses me is that it's like Lake coming into her own as a person and like legitimizing her identity. Like that could be that done at the same time as like an intimate friendship / romance could be seen as like he's like making her into a real person, like through his love there she becomes
Shut
real
up.
But it like doesn't right but isn't that how like so many like stupid things take this, like, but this show like somehow walks that line incredibly, and it's like really not that at all.
Well, the compelling part is that, so like we were all worried that Jesse was gonna like, before the show aired, I know a lot of us were worried that he was gonna be like the main focus and not Lake. Well, really, what, like, obvious, I'm like, Jesse's fine, like he's fine, but like I want to compare it to Star vs. Forces of Evil. The show's about Star. Marco is a main character, but the show's about Star.
He's totally the Marco of the show, yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
But what they do is so impressive because he's not. Because he, like, this is Lake's journey, but it's Jesse's journey too. And what you were talking about is that, like, their parallel journey. Like, it's the same journey, and they reach the same place, but they reach it together. And that is really, I think, what is so compelling about their relationship and the season is their dynamic.
Not exactly like Star and Marco, though. They did kind
of. Well, the thing is, though, is that like Star always takes precedence.
Yeah,
like Marco does, he grows also, and like the solution is that they just get to be together forever. But like the show is about Star. We don't really get kind of the big mystical journey with Marco. Like we get a little bit of it, but the show's about Star, and Marco is her support, and that's fine. Like he's a great support. But here, I mean, they really are helping each other, especially when things like really turned when Jesse left the train. Like when he's the one leading her through the mall car. Like that was really a big moment, I think, for both of them, and really like one of the turning points in this season.
Yeah. I mean, it takes a big tonal shift, I think, at that point. It is really like Star and Marco. I mean, to the point where the conclusion to spoilers, skip ahead a minute for Star Wars Force Heroes, where the conclusion to both is that they somehow magically get to be in the same world as their like worlds fuse. It's exactly. It's like the same.
It's great.
It's great.
That's why you love it so much.
But
I'm just a sucker for this type of thing.
But Infinity Train kind of does it better.
It does it so much better.
I mean, it's like 4 seasons versus 10 episodes. Like they don't get the temptation to drag it out for a long time.
Right.
This show. But yeah, and yeah, just I feel like I'm so skeptical of like what I like the thing that I outlined that other shows do, like about how this became like Jesse himself legitimizing Lake versus her legitimizing himself, and the fact that the show like does Jesse's arc, does Lake's arc, and does them together and still like all three successfully. I think way better than I ever could have expected. I'm so impressed with that aspect of the show. Like, my big favorite, part of everything is like just how the two are interweaving, and I do, and I like, of course I do think Lake is the headline and her identity journey is the big topic to get into, but I do really like how Jesse was handled here in this season, and I've talked about it a lot, but they're in love, and they're getting into the Lake Jesse part of the outline. They're very physically affectionate with each other throughout the season, and I think that's wonderful. And they blush a lot at each other, and I don't know. Animation a lot of times does blushing to convey not necessarily romantic, just emotion in general.
I mean, they're just cute. That's the story. They're cute.
They're just cute together, and I totally think they would have kissed at the end if Nate didn't come. And I think Lake should probably take a few months, travel around the world separate from Jesse, like do things on her own a little bit. But I also think she'll want to come back to Jesse and spend her time with Jesse.
She might need a friend to like see real people. Like, not real people, but more like humans, and get them.
Yeah, make a different friend, yeah. And I mean, just the concept of like how Lake will work in this world does not make sense, right? Like,
that's the number one hang up.
Well, that's why it's
a birth
perfect that
certificate.
It ends
I mean,
there,
it'd be really cool though if she ran into Tulip.
Right. I mean, will she, like, it's almost like a do I want to see my birth mother type thing. Like, will she want to seek out Tulip?
Yeah, she's grown up by now, probably.
No, I think it's only been a few months actually since the end of
Is that confirmed? Because
it's confirmed. This season started 2 months after that last season.
Never mind.
Yeah, and I do think she spent a little bit of time on the train. But yeah, I don't know. Will she want to seek out Tulip? I think she probably will at some point, but not really.
Well, I like more the idea of them just running into each other on accident.
That might be traumatic, though. I feel like. Well,
I think that's what we're at. Is that like
we need more trauma?
One, she had like a lot of trauma. Now it's kind of like, okay, can it get worse? But like legitimately, my thing is like legitimately, like Tulip's not the problem.
Yeah, and I don't think Lake ever super blamed Tulip, but it's just what Tulip represents. So I think there still could be some trauma behind that.
Granted, that's what we get to at the end, though. Is like becoming Lake. You know, she's accepting who she is, and part of that is being Chrome.
It hinges a lot on how secure you are in your new identity, and right now, like immediately, maybe now's not the time, but there's definitely going to be
cool.
Yeah, but if we continued along this arc of like continuing to feel more comfortable in herself in this new world, then sure, we could get eventually to a point where she'd be able to meet Tulip and to be totally fine, because now she can finally see themselves as two different people entirely.
They are in Arizona at the end of the show, and Tulip is in. That out. I'm getting a lot of this information from the AMA they had today on Reddit. So
Jesse has an Arizona flag on his jersey.
They're in Arizona, and Tulip's in. I always forget if it's Wisconsin or Minnesota.
It's Minnesota, right?
Minnesota. Okay,
it's Midwestern United States.
No, that's not the answer. So they're pretty far away. So I wonder how that. Yeah, just factor that into your fanfics. Yes, I think. Any other Jesse comments?
Perfect boy.
I'll just briefly say that I'm not like I don't want to dump on Jesse, and I'll say that he definitely gets better as the show goes along. I think that the weakness is in the first couple of episodes where he is just kind of this goof, and he needs Lake to kind of lead him along, and like it's very on the nose with, hey, do better things, learn things, and but as we get to know Jesse and we figure out his flaws, and also Lake begins to open up and stuff, so like it merges, it eventually evolves into a relationship that feels more symbiotic. But it's those first couple of episodes that are a bit of a rough patch, and that would be the only like weakness I'd attribute to this season, is that it takes a little while for me to warm up to Jesse. But definitely by the end, you do buy the chemistry that they have together. It's just at the beginning, it's a bit slow.
That's also how I feel.
Okay. Yeah, and I think a lot of people are gonna feel that way. I think
Yeah, I see where you guys are coming from.
Well,
I mean,
he's annoying in the beginning. Like, frankly, he's irritating. And then also, I mean, I'll be honest, I really did have a problem with his video. Like, that really...
Yeah, he
like,
was bad, yeah.
That was the thing. And that was, Tulip's problem wasn't really her problem. Like, it was a really terrible situation.
She didn't put herself in that situation.
It was reacting to outside circumstances.
And then
like, this is a bit
Jesse,
more purposeful.
Like, yeah, that was like his fault. Which, like, there's a different... Like, I understand, like, like, struggling with, like, who you are as a person. Like, been there, done that. But, like, there's a difference between, like, emotional journeys and then, like, hurting people. And then I do think this is a very interesting season because then we do see Lake brutally murder someone. So, like, like, I'm really not sure what I'm getting out of this.
That up,
no, we have to talk about that.
Like, I can't. Like, it's hard not to think about. And that's the kind of thing. Like, I'm not. Because here's the thing. I believe, like, Lake's a person, and I think the people on the train, if they want to be people, like, if they want to live a life outside of the train, they should get to do so. Yeah. But, like, we also, like, yeah, right. You're Chrome, but then we also spend this entire season being like, they do weird things with the Flex, and then we brutally murder them, and they, like, ooze silver, and, like, I don't know how I feel about that.
Okay, one sec before that. But yeah, Jesse. No, I agree. Jesse's like very problematic in that video. I think this journey is about him, standing up for himself, not giving into social pressure, not feeling the need to please everyone.
And he does take responsibility.
And he takes responsibility. But I mean, yeah, like I think that video is a very subtle commentary on like young boys and toxic masculinity. Like he's still responsible for himself, but I also think he's a victim of, like how toxic masculinity manifests around, like he's 15, he's a kid. So, not that he's not at fault at all, but I think it's like, I mean, I understand.
I think it plays not great because like you are, it's just one of those things that I'm like, I don't feel great about this. Like, it's awesome that he is so supportive of Lake and this extremely queer-coded character. And then we have this.
Well,
I think you're not supposed to feel good about it. Like, he's
right. No, and that's why I'm not, like, I'm never really going to be 100% on board with Jesse because it's
supposed to make you uncomfortable because, like Dylan said, it's like, it's a good depiction of how toxic masculinity can manifest, especially at that age.
Yeah.
So it's supposed to make you uncomfortable and I guess sometimes not like the character.
Yeah.
Well, it's one of those things. It's one of those things like, yes, taking responsibility, but it doesn't absolve you. And I don't know really where we end up at the end.
Doesn't absolve you, and I think there's a lot of people like that make mistakes and they're not, you don't absolve them. But we're to a certain extent kind of not used to characters that make clear mistakes and have
right. Especially this very like clear cut, like that was a horrible thing that he did.
Yeah.
But I mean, obviously it's his friends.
His brother did forgive him also.
And his brother forgives him. But anyway, and then we see him do so much positive for Lake. But I actually think Jake and Jesse in the beginning is exactly what Lake... What Jake? See, Jake is the name.
I told you it's Jake.
No.
Jake.
Jesse. I think Jesse in the beginning is exactly what Lake needs. Jesse is kind of like this big puppy, and like he's just very
and Lake is mean,
very accepting of Lake, very like free and goofy. It's like I feel like Lake would have hard rejected any other type of person, but like this type of personality, I think is exactly kind of like who she needed at this moment. I think they like fit very well together. Getting into my shipping side, okay. So we talked about the mirror cops a lot, Steve and Mace, yeah, I mean,
they're gay. Deal with it.
That's the first thing I want to say is also heavily ship them together, and it's really tragic that they both die.
It is tragic.
But they are also trying to murder someone, so it's forgivable.
Mace is such a bad influence on Steve. Steve didn't want to murder them.
Well, no.
Yes! Yes.
Steve is doing his own like nice cop routine.
You think
but
he's
it's
just
for the
doing
same
a fake
purpose?
good cop?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's a
I mean, he
bad
wants to
cop.
apprehend them, but Mace goes a little. And they're both victims. I honestly think they are both victims of a terrible system. Like
They are.
So, but not the
Well,
again, not that.
Well,
applies to
although
them, but-
episode 8 brings up the possible, like, I mean, Lake brings up like you're a coward because you could have taken the other option, but you decided to do this instead. So, like, there is some element of choice going on here.
Yes. There's one
Basically,
choice. Yeah.
that episode was F the police. 'Cause
It
he
was.
didn't
It's
follow
true.
the law.
Yeah, Infinity Train says that. Yeah, that's.
Well, they even talk about they're like it's all about upholding the balance. Well, that's stupid. Like,
Yeah, well, look, so I think these characters were pretty strong as secondary characters this season. I thought their dynamic was fun. I could have used one or maybe an ending scene to their dynamic. It leaves you pretty cold if you're attached to them. That one of them, I guess he comes back. He's like, "Oh, to avenge."
Oh god.
Avenge my lover, and then he dies too. That's sad.
I was glad they addressed how
so
we
we
were
carry his like half of his body around for like an
Right.
entire episode.
Yes,
That's
okay.
amazing.
How about those? So I want to briefly talk about the mirror mythology, but the violent aspects of this, like episode 8. I think episode 8 is one of the more notably animated and executed episodes of animation in recent memory. It just goes full brutal action movie in a way that we really haven't seen. Like, it's just Lake brutally murders him on the wheel.
This
And,
is
I have to, because it's Ashley Johnson. I just had so many Last of Us vibes. Like I couldn't.
yeah,
Not
she's
think
used
of
to
that.
that.
I just flashed back like horrifically watching the episode to watching the Earth Queen be like.
That's true.
strangled to
That's
death
probably
on
the best
screen.
comparison, right? Like that was a
Like, I
horrific
was like,
moment.
oh my
yeah.
god.
And on the AMA, I was like, he's like, well, how did you get this? And Owen was like, all they asked was, is it a human? And no, okay, it's fine.
Wow.
Like,
Uh-oh,
which
we're getting into
I think
like,
plays into the themes of the
speciesist
season.
territory.
But, yeah, right.
Right.
I can't believe this got past the censors, so to speak.
Me
Like,
neither.
There's blood on her face.
Yeah. That was
just because
dark.
it's chrome blood and not real blood is the
Oh
No,
my
because
God.
it's not human blood. If it were animal blood, it would have been acceptable too.
right. Apparently, yeah.
And they had an entire episode based on kicking the toad. Like, I can't believe we escalated from kicking the toad to brutally murdering someone on
This
screen.
is an escalation in violence. This is a good
Oh my
point.
god.
And
And I thought
do
kicking the toad was bad. Like, and then I got to this and here's the thing. So we're like in the Discord, right? And like I hadn't seen the episode yet, and that was really violent. And I was like, oh god, what are they talking about? And I was like, oh, it's so violent.
They're gonna
Like,
kick her
What
back.
could possibly be so violent? Yeah, I agree. I'm kicking the toad levels of violence is about my limit. So this,
yeah, like literally, I was like, this is terrible. Like every time I was like, you better not kick that toad. And then like I still wasn't satisfied that the deer did it, but it was like funny. Though it was funny at the end where he was like, kick me. I don't want this to get worse.
yeah, well, yeah.
But like, oh my god.
yeah.
I love
Side
that he
note, the
wound
toad.
up making a business profit.
Yeah, and then he's like, I'm doing it for
I'm doing it for money. Just kick me.
Yeah, the toad. I think episode 4, but going to the finale, episode 4 was my favorite. By the way, I think the toad is great, and just the Jesse and MT stuff in that episode is amazing.
Is it the ultimate honesty episode?
Yeah, it's them. And that's the video. That's the video.
I'm sorry, my favorite episode has to be the Lucky Cat episode. I'm contractually obligated for that to be my favorite episode.
Why?
Because I love
There's a
Lucky
cat.
Cats.
Okay, because you love Lucky Cats.
One,
We can do
because
Look
the
at-
cat. I am staring at my Lucky Cat right now while you're talking about this.
Nice. I didn't know you. Okay, that's good. Yeah, it starts
I'm
off with a big
super-
Lucky Cat. Yeah, we can briefly do the favorite episode thing since we're on the topic. But 4, but actually minus 10 though after the finale. But 4 was the previous. one.
Shocker.
Allie, what's your favorite?
Episode 4. I would say
Yeah.
that or the drag car because
The
that was
drag
too
car
good.
is so great.
I was over the moon. And the fact that her name was Sashay, because I had literally started watching RuPaul that day.
Incredible.
So
Yeah,
good.
I love the drag car part of the episode, but I don't like the parasite part, which is most of it.
Oh my god, the
but-
parasite part is horrific.
Freaky.
But I will say, what I really liked about the drag car is how positive it was. Like, it didn't matter how you went
Right?
down the runway; they gave you a really high score.
Yeah,
It was
shock
And
they
Jessie
gave.
wore a dress. Just
Yeah,
saying.
Jessie in the dress was amazing. Lake, though, I feel like was barely trying. She got
It's
high
really
scores
like
every time. So
There's Star and Marco. He wore a dress.
For the record,
that's true. That's true.
Lake's outfit was the best, though.
It was good. It was good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The
Um,
bipedal Alan Dracula was not okay.
Yeah, the whole Parasite. That was maybe
Also,
the low point
I
of the
really
season.
like how dark, like how disturbing this season was. I didn't think it could get worse.
Thank you.
That's
No.
true. The Parasite stuff was pretty dark too. There was
Like-
some dark stuff in there.
For
Like
context,
that was what made me the most uncomfortable until episode, was it 7? Yeah, the Apex people.
do you know that Adventure Time gif where they take the hooves off and it's pink?
Yes.
That makes me viscerally uncomfortable. So like then like my brother and my fiance like send it to me when and do it in person to make me uncomfortable. And guess what? Then this episode happens, and I was like, no. Like,
The deer
Your
have
fiance and your
baby
brother have
hands.
hooves.
Okay, we don't need to talk about the baby ants.
I just want to briefly mention, like, with season 1, like, had sort of this imagery as well. Like, we had the introduction of the cockroach people, for
Yeah,
example. So, like, it did some of this, but I do think that season 2, like, kicked it up a notch in terms of, like, what they're able to get away with, and I really appreciate it.
Yeah, I'll come back to episode 8 in a second. Alex, what was your favorite episode though?
Episode, well, not non-finale.
Anything in the season. Finale
oh,
counts.
Okay, then I would pick episode 9. Like, I mean, it's episode 9 or episode 8, but like those two are especially high in terms of like the feels that are given out there.
So you like I feel like those are the dark episodes. You're liking the gritty dark stuff in the season.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
so-
not to downplay the humor of this, because like the first half of this episode, for its weaknesses, they're still funny episodes, and so there's like even the Parasite car. I will stick up for that episode, in part because it's voice of one of the Mystery Science Theater 3000 people, and I really enjoy their work, so I appreciate Parasite's goofiness there. But also, like, I think it's a funny episode, so all that first half works just fine. But yes, I think that it's more effective when it focuses on Lake's situation. So 8 and 9 would be my choices.
Okay, cool. Yeah, 8 is certainly not my cup of tea, so I wanted to defer to Alex on this. So I think like the execution is like super notable. I think in terms of animation, like 8 has some crazy stuff, and then in 10, there's this one it was very Steven Universe Change Your Mind type sequence with the Alan Dracula firing the lasers at Steve.
it was incredible.
Just like the frame rate completely changed and stuff. Yeah.
That whole animation sequence changed. It was like,
So there's, like, I think the season definitely like stepped up kind of the visuals.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you're was it the violent stuff in 8 you liked, Alex, or like the talk? I think you've referenced the talk a lot.
Yeah, it's more the dialogue. Like, sure, the murder of Mace is a bit cathartic. I'm not
Still
gonna
like,
lie.
hey Alex, did
but-
you really like it when he brutally murdered that one
That's what
guy?
I'm
I was
asking.
like,
Right,
yeah,
Yeah,
it's hard.
it's like, sure, but that's not the only reason I like that episode. God, like, it's such a meaningful
Yeah, there's
episode.
a
I
good
mean, I'm
talk
with
in
you,
there.
Alex. I love murder on.
I mean, I will say my real answer is episode 9 because it hurts me.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what you want out of a train.
Yeah,
that, like,
that was-
man. Destroy my emotions.
Yep,
Yeah,
that's what I'm here
episode
for.
10 because it's the opposite of hurts me. That's my
Okay, sounds good. Good
the
reasoning.
two types of people. Okay, so it's
There it is.
yeah, it's good. The stuff in even 9, like I guess the creepiness is not the same as the violence, but 10 also has the violence as he just gets like, I don't even know how to describe it, but you get blown up and
Shredded.
He
splattered.
explodes. Yeah,
You
it's
know,
weird.
Explodes. Oh, yeah.
Oh no.
Pretty good. I was not expecting it to go this.
It was,
brutal.
I don't know which was worse, the blood or like seeing his face on the floor. Both were pretty bad. Like I'm not sure which one's worse.
I think I'd rather be exploded, like from a deer shooting lasers at me, than shredded underneath the train.
Also, there's
Oh,
weird.
sure.
It's weird parallels with
No
like
one-
her cutting her hair. Like I'm not really sure what I'm supposed to get out of it.
damn.
Interesting. That's true. Then, yeah. Allie, no one asked that. Would you rather? But you answered it anyway.
Yeah, you did. Good job.
No one has to. I'll do it.
I guess someone does have to. It's worth asking, how did the tonal shifts work? Like, we go from super goofy Lake and Jesse
Here was
interactions to like super goofy train denizens
To
to
the
like
parasite.
brutal murder to like
It's
creepy
the
sci-fi.
Well-
So I'm not like I was thrown off by it, but it could be a great thing. Like how did like is this? I think a lot more than season 1 seemed a lot more tonally consistent. I guess for better or worse, I'm not sure. It's
Well,
Well, I think it's
I-
a very slow escalation. Like I think that's where they get you because like you have the chrome car, and that's basically the entire basis of the season. And like the chrome car is dark. Like they want to grind her up. Like that's messed up. And then this whole idea that like she only exists as a reflection of Tulip, like this is very dark stuff. And then so we have that basis, that undertone that we can always like kind of dip into, and then we just like keep amping it up slowly.
Yeah, I liked what Ali said about that. It's like it comes from a dark place, like you're saying. Like the foundation is dark, so it kind of makes sense to go there. And that's what maybe like what she has to overcome. Alex, what do you think?
Well, and I agree with Delaney that it feels a lot. I don't think it's really a tonal shift in terms of just gradually changing over time. Like I think episodes 6 and 7, the cat car and the mall car, like that's kind of like the turning point of the season where it begins to get a bit darker. I mean, episode 6 is more of like putting your face, Lake's identity crisis and the train not recognizing her, and then you get to episode 7 and these humans are flat out being racist against the nulls. So like the first half of the season is pretty light, but like it gets you to slowly darker places, and then you get to episode 8, which sets you up with all the dialogue between Lake and Mace in terms of like getting deep into psychological, and it ends with the murder. But I think that that's all built up slowly over those 3 episodes in the middle. So I mean, you can call them a tonal shift if you compare episode 1 to episode 10, but I think that the journey to get to that tone is done marvelously and not really in a jarring way.
Definitely fair. And I think maybe if you watch them all together, that's more apparent. It's a little weird two at a time, because like the dark episodes paired together, it's like all contained to the last 2 nights or something. But I think that's a fair point. It does build up. Last thing I want to say about the mirror mythology stuff. I don't ultimately think this really matters because I think they pull it off. But a big reaction I had throughout the week was that, yes, the Chrome Car, I think, was the best episode last season. And I think, Lake was a great character to I literally think season finale, last season podcast, we were like, yes, Lake, let's do more with her next season, have her be the main character. And we never thought it'd really happen. But, I think that's the reaction you have in that regard. It makes sense to run with it. But I think the Mirror World mythology is so thin. And I think it was a little, I really questioned throughout the week the decision to base so much on just the concept of reflections, which we never really explained too much. They pull it off at the end because they focus more on the train's mythology, and I think that's like really great how the finale handles everything.
Well, also because 1-1, they rely on his decision.
And 1-1, and 1-1 I do think helps with things at the end, but just people popping out of mirrors and like they try to explain some things. I think it's like I think the Chrome Car made sense as one episode. But now they tried to expand it into a season, and I do think that was a weak point for me of the season. I just didn't super understand what was happening with the mirror cops, and like it's like a big part is the like you either become a cop or you get or you become someone else's reflection and your memory's wiped, and like there's a lot about that. And ultimately, it's like what is even any of this? Like I still don't understand the basic concept of like the reflections in the mirror world and like. So I think the season probably staked a little bit too much on all of that, but it did pull it off at the end. So, everything turned out well, would be my analysis.
Okay. My quick reaction, I did not think about this at all during the season because I'm only focused on Lake and the cops. Those are the only characters I don't really care about what the other reflections are doing with their lives. They can live their lives just fine.
I mean, they're like, I think they're popping out of mirrors that like they talk about this decision they're making. I do think the season does bring it up, but to a certain extent.
It brings it up, but I think just enough to satisfy the people like you who like care about the mythology of the mirror world. But like, I think that this season is more interested in just focusing on her not wanting to be a reflection anymore, and that's kind of all I need.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I don't want to care about the mirror mythology. I can't.
And that's why they don't. I think that they don't talk about it really a lot in this season, and that's a good decision because
they kind of make fun of it too. Even like in this. I don't remember what episode it is, but Lake is like, I don't like make up all the rules. How am I supposed to know how everything is?
Right. Like she kind of whisks away like Jesse asking too many questions about it because like who cares?
Too many people like.
You use the bathroom reflection. I wonder.
Yeah, it's a good point. They do make fun of it. The season makes fun of its own mythology a lot. I think that's a kind of a sign of a weak mythology, but it's also a good device. I don't know.
Well, it handles it well in the most trolling way.
Well, you have to think about it too. Like, there's the train and then there's reality. And so I think that's part of why we have to play with this is because, like,
Not reality.
Blake didn't exist until Tulip got on the train car.
Is that true, or like
we
yes,
don't know,
right?
Dylan,
like
but I
it,
think
like
it is
right, like that's probably. I think that's
I think that has to be this.
Well, and that's what makes episode 8. That's what makes episode 8 so effective, right? Because when
like Mace is talking about
Mace is bringing all this up, and like Lake honestly can't figure out, like, is this real? Like, it is so everything he's saying is right? Am I just doomed to focus on this? And so like that feels very existential in a way, and it tears her apart. Like the idea that something she's trying to escape from is like baked into herself, and something that she's not allowed to break out of, but that in the end gives her even more impetus to break the cycle, so to speak. But I think that the fact that we don't totally understand the trains going on puts us in like shoes in terms of not being sure, like, how am I supposed to handle this? And that's, I think, a good thing for the audience to be in a state of kind of like, oh my God, is like what? I don't even know what my role is in all of this.
And it's also the nature of the train, because each car is its own universe, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And they are aware of each other.
That's how it starts, right? Like that makes sense. It's just this is a universe it's just one episode. I would like what Alex is saying to be true. I'm like not sure. Like I don't have a baseline for the Mace conversation episode 8. So it's like, is he gaslighting, or is it like the fundamental of like you're created for your support for real people, you're not real, like that. I think that's fine. Like that's the main theme, that's abundantly clear. But it's just like do they exist? I'm not convinced that we're not supposed to understand if they do or don't exist before the train or anything. Like I feel like maybe we're supposed to.
Well, I think there's also confusing too, though, is because Mace is the literal like definition of that train car. So like it doesn't, like, I don't know, like it's impossible to know Mace's intention, because what he probably believes what he's saying to be true.
Yeah, and then it's a question of like, does Mace, does he even know what's true?
Exactly, like Mace doesn't even know.
Yeah. So anyway, I feel very justified in question. Like I think the season brings this up a lot, and also they're popping out of stuff all the time, and it's like you could just accept that. That's fine, but
it looks cool. Like that.
It looks cool. Sure.
Episode 1, when the cops are chasing a Lake through that black market car, that's awesome. Like just seeing them like jump through things, and I could just be like, okay, they're just using everything that's reflective as portals. Cool.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of all there is to it. So I do think it's a little flimsy, but like I think the season recognizes that and like does try to make fun of it a little bit, and then does ultimately not focus on it at the end. So ultimately gets the right place. What's next on here? So Al, who we haven't talked about a lot is Alan Dracula.
I love him.
Yes, love Alan. Okay, yeah, what's the pro Alan Dracula take, Delaney? He's just cool.
He's just great. Okay, here's the thing. Like, I hadn't, like, at first I was like, oh God, I'm not really that interested in, like, he's fine. Like, it's hard to, like, how do you beat Atticus? Like, Atticus is literally, like, the end-all be-all of animal companions. Also, one. Like, oh my God, what a treasure. And yet they somehow do it with Alan Dracula, even though he never speaks. And I adore him. Like, he has so much attitude, and, like, he's literally... he only exists to be a bit, and yet they do it so well. Like, he is such a great friend, and he loves them dearly, and yet he's also a jerk. And I think that he's a cat. This is why I like him.
Yeah, he does what he wants.
He is basically
I adore
a cat,
him.
Yeah.
He's basically a cat. And I think he's just, like, I just love him. He's great. At the beginning, I wasn't...
deer cat. It's
he's a magical deer cat. It's great.
I love Alan Dracula with Lake at like in the finale and stuff, and just the moments when Alan Dracula is affectionate with Lake. And
oh my God, when he lays in her lap, I'm like, ugh.
Yeah, I think those are the highlights for me of Alan Dracula. I was like, one at the end with Alan Dracula is like, you might be my greatest creation or something. Go back to it. Yeah. I was like, is this supposed to be? I really
broke the mold with you, Alan.
Yeah, I broke the mold. Is this supposed to be a mystery? I don't think so. Like, I think he's just commenting on how weird he is.
Yeah. He's
I was like,
commenting on
we-
how much of
I
a
th-
meme he is.
Yeah, throughout the whole season, I was like, oh, there's going to be a twist with Alan Dracula. Like,
He's a rare Pepe meme.
but no, it's just yeah, okay.
Next time I get a cat, I'm naming it Alan Dracula. Thank you, Delaney.
No.
See, I was
Everyone
gonna.
dislike that.
I wanted to hard just because I love Atticus in 1-1. I think they're so much better characters than Alan Dracula. They provide so much more humor and personality. But then you compared Alan Dracula to a cat, and now I have to say I'm okay with
It's
it because
true.
I like cats.
Yeah,
Well, I think
I
it's
think-
different. They serve different functions because
Right, and I enjoyed
we
1-1
did-
and Atticus's function way more.
well, we didn't have a Jesse last season. Like it was Tulip and
yeah.
1-1 and Atticus.
Jesse is Atticus in 1-1, yeah.
yeah, like together. But my thing is like 1-1. I love 1-1. Like, oh my god, I would die for him. But them, I don't know. And also, I would also die for Atticus.
Would you die
And-
for Alan Dracula? That's the real question.
That is a good question.
So you have to think about it, right?
I
You
have
can't
to think about it.
Atticus.
Think about it a little bit. I do.
Alan Dracula is worse than the Atticus in 1-1. I think, right? We can all probably agree with that to differing extents.
Yeah, I think so.
I mean, they fulfill. For me, it's more like they fulfill different purposes. Like we were talking about, like a mystery adventure versus like he's the background character to Jesse and Lake's adventure, like in their journey. So they're different. Like we're really dealing with two different narrative structures and styles, and so it's interesting. They're telling they're not just telling different stories. They are telling like different genres of stories.
Yeah.
So yeah, I wasn't super. I love Alan Dracula in relation to Lake and Jesse to a lesser extent, but yeah, on its own, not Alan Dracula. I think it's more of a device. Yeah. Anyway, okay.
Just a small point to Alan Dracula. The animation that they do with him is pretty funny. Like because he can like take any form. Like there's one shot I remember where it just like turns into bubbles that are like deer colored to run out of a room. Like that was really weird.
I love it when
and so
he splits. So they can't.
Yeah,
sit on
and then
it.
Lake falls off, and I think there's a lot of great comedic moments. Yeah, and
they do very interesting.
Oh, you're blue. Oh, back to brown again. Yeah.
When they're like, he can do this. Oh, he can do. Oh my god, he's doing both of those. Like when they're
and
like
in every episode, he does something new that we haven't seen.
It's so great. I love it.
So I do think there's a lot of fun stuff with Alan Dracula. Okay, last two topics, pretty quickly because we're late in here. But Grace and the Apex. The Apex presented in that episode as people who kind of like worshipped Amelia, the previous conductor. They have the conductor lines, and they thought 1-1 is usurping the rightful conductor of Amelia. Side note: would have loved to have seen Amelia this season. So that's a big.
Would
thing
you though?
Yes, I love her. We could. I think she's a big. Like basically everyone showed up. Mostly in that episode 6 from last season, except for her, I think.
Yeah.
And no Atticus. There's no Atticus in this.
No Atticus. Atticus was like in a picture. Owen has question mark been trolling that Atticus is dead now. Unclear if he wasn't in the season, so he could be dead. It's always unclear, but yeah. So I Grace seems cool. I like this concept with the Apex.
Does Grace seem cool?
I mean, I don't
think so.
like she's a bad person, I guess, but she
But
probably
she's also
grew up.
badass.
Is the
Grew
word
up
we
on
want
the
to go
train.
for neat?
She's neat. Yeah, she's Grace is-
Interesting.
Anyway,
Wait,
what
neat
my
spelled
point
with an
is,
A or N-E-E-T?
yeah, she's probably
What?
a neat too. Don't worry about it. And they I don't think they do much with this concept of the Apex and the like these people who don't have a frame of reference for 1-1 being the rightful conductor before this. It's like that's kind of a natural result of last season. That's interesting, but not much done here with the Apex. A natural thing to focus on next season. Anyone a big fan of Grace or Apex or anything?
I hate her.
Yep.
Yeah,
And I
my
want to see her suffer.
Yeah, my reaction is similar to yours, Dylan, where like I can tell this is something they're dangling for like if there's a third season, but in the same way they did for the Chrome car, but I'm not as interested in this hook as I was in the previous hook, just because I don't know, the idea of of people being racist against the Knolls doesn't exactly tickle my fancy.
Look, I'm a baby. I don't care. People are mean. Like, I don't want to. Like,
You were loving the dark stuff, though. You were loving the.
It's different. They're like mean. I don't know.
Yeah, they're
like,
mean.
And Grace has such an off-putting personality. They're like, oh, I read it in a book. That means I'm
Oh,
smart.
I love
as
that
well.
part. I love that.
That's
like, I
I'm
think-
right.
Books.
like for me, it's more like I'm like dark stuff for me is different than like cruelty.
Mm,
Right.
I get you, yeah.
There's a difference going on between like someone emotionally finding themselves and these people who are just like emotionally throwing their lives.
Which that was something I really appreciated with Jesse was when he's talking to Grace and they're like when they were breaking the blocks and they were making him sad. That was so upsetting.
And
And
like at least I like stuff that hits close to home in the bad way because stuff like this should be touched on, like being super mean and racist. but
yes.
I can't say I'd be happy to like watch it develop
Exactly.
unless it develops into something
Right.
better.
It's harder to develop empathy for something like this compared to our previous main characters.
Which like it was nice with Jesse, like he he was like, no, like when she when she was
Yeah, what
explaining
is
the concept
wrong
of a
with you?
null. Yeah, I'm like, what?
You crazy.
Maybe I'm the Grace stan. I think she's cool.
You
I mean,
kidding me?
obviously she's not a good person, but like she's the mean girl, right? I'm up with
Yeah,
it.
it's Dylan's time.
I mean,
Dylan's
like she's a
type is
cruel.
the
She's
mean
she's obviously much cooler and stuff. I think there's a interesting. Like she's a cool design. I like that they do the conductor thing on their face. I more dislike the dude than her.
Oh,
but,
I absolutely dislike the dude. Like
yeah.
if threw him into the wheel, I'd be like, okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Like,
Yeah, I don't know. None of that really super worked for me this season. That's the thing. A lot of mid-season stuff, like to a certain extent, didn't work. The finale really brings it home. Also, I feel like there's other angles to do with people wanting to stay on the train and raise your number, other than like being confused by the conductor change. I would like if they dived into
Right.
some more maybe deeper things than that. If we're gonna do good.
You mean like how it's evaluated that your number goes down numerically? Got there eventually.
After the night that they were presented, my first thought was like, these are people that want to stay on the train because they don't want to leave. They don't want to go home. Like home is bad. Like I think there's some people that like are in abusive situations or things, and they would like that would like to me that would be.
I imagine that they would just think that they've messed up too bad to try to go back.
Well, if that's also a thing to explore, but they don't do that in this episode, really.
Yeah, I was a little down on all that. And then the Knolls you mentioned, and like, yeah, they're racist against Knolls, but just the concept. The season is very interested in the concept of there's like sentient beings on this train who are seemingly created by the train and are not like people, which I think is a fascinating thing to dive into. Because last season it's like, here's a fantastical mythology, and now this season I think is trying to explain things a little more, and this isn't something we thought of a lot with like all these train beings. Like, what are they? Are they people? Could they get off the train? And I think the season poses these questions, but is more focused on Lake's specific journey.
Right.
And it does, I'm left a little not unsatisfied, but I'm left wanting more with the other train denizens. Like, I want the bigger concept of like, what does their life mean? Like, and like they have equal value in their life. And do they want to get off the train? They should all have the option to get off the train. Why do they need to stay? Like, that seems very cruel. And I think the finale starts off by slightly addressing it with Alan Dracula kind of being the face of all the rest of the Knolls, and Lake saying like, I am sorry I can't take you with me, but this is your home. You should be able to stay here. So it like has its mind on it a little bit, but I think is like rightfully more interested in Lake's journey. But I also think there's a lot we could dive into with all the other. I think one calls them denizens, not Knolls.
yes.
Yeah, I think that would be my, rather than the apex. I mean, like, it ties in because they're racist against them, but I would be most interested in the other denizens of the train.
The opposite of the townies. Dylan's excited.
That's true. They're the townies of this world, and I do want to see more. Yeah.
Randall episode.
Well, we got the perfect amount of Randall this season.
It was
less
great.
Than a minute.
The best part, like I was like, oh my god, look! And then when he pulled out, he's like, "Do you want a donut holder?" I was like, yes.
I think that like the question of their identity.
Oh, we
as
need an
well,
entire
'cause
season on the cat, just for the record.
I've had enough of the cat. I don't.
No,
Good
the cat's
cat.
great.
We got a lot of the cat last
Like,
season.
I'm really okay. How the cat is like my onion, and she has to show up all the time.
A different cat.
We saw Crystal Dude for a second. I liked that.
That
did? Oh wait!
Something
Also, when the
DDR
bunny
or
was
something?
here at the carnival.
Yeah.
The bunny is the what's his name? I forget. But he was there for like a split second.
Oh, yeah, his name.
Yeah, I think there's like intertwining themes of identity with the rest of these people as well, and Lake is like our like perspective on this type of person, but there's all these other ones too. Like, is one thing, would Lake want to like go back and try to free more people? I could see that type of thing happening too.
Ooh, that'd be cool.
The rabbit's name is Khaki Bottoms.
Khaki Bottoms, yes. Thank you for looking that up. Khaki Bottoms is important.
It's very important.
Yeah. So I was intrigued by that. There's a lot of themes this season, I think. And I think the show ultimately focuses on the most important and right ones. But there's also a lot of intriguing stuff. So I think we hope we get more. Like there's a lot we've talked about that we could see more of next season. And it hasn't been announced yet, and there was no Infinity Train will continue thing at the end like we did for season 1.
Well, no, that's definitely just for the event.
I mean, like, I
think
like
book 2 concludes.
Yeah. We, for the most part, I think it's probably just because they had initial order of 20, and the next season's not coming anytime soon, so they don't want to say it's coming. But that
doesn't mean it's not.
You think if it goes to HBO Max, it'll be even more violence?
Yes,
more they have more freedom for that. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm okay with freedom for gay things, not violent things.
Yeah, next season is just a Mad Max type situation going on.
Oh my
with
God.
lesbians.
Yes. Look at me.
Lesbians try to take down the train. Gotcha.
Amelia.
Give Grace a girlfriend, I will become significantly more interested.
Oh yeah, Grace and her new girlfriend. Yeah, if you guys have problems with like accepting Jesse after his video, I feel like Grace, like that's going to be a large thing to get past.
Oh, absolutely. Like
that'd be pretty. I think it'd be fun though if the show.
What if she killed someone in real life?
She's like a murderer.
Or that's season 3. We just follow a random person. We figure out that they're on the train because they murdered someone, and we see how you have.
And we're like, oh no, how do we react to that? Oh, that yeah. We watch their video, and it's just them
murdering a person.
It's not that much outside of what the
we
show.
Don't have
Okay.
time to unpack
Anyway, okay, that's what I got as the main things. You can, in final thoughts, bring up anything else, random things from the season, or any concluding thoughts on any themes we brought up. Delaney, last thoughts on Infinity Train Book 2.
I just really enjoyed it, and I really hope we get more. Like, I have really enjoyed this universe, and like I just think we have a lot of compelling characters, and I will say that Lake's journey meant a lot to me personally, and I think that's really the strength of this show, is that this is really like meaningful, and it's not just it's amazing to watch, it's beautiful, and it's great storytelling, but it's also really meaningful, and I think that's one of the greatest parts about this show.
Awesome, that's great. Alex, final thoughts.
Yeah, again, Lake is amazing. I love her. I think that this will be a very rewatchable season of television. Like it breezes. I rewatched episodes 1 through 8 before the premieres today, and they breeze by. Like in terms of how fun they are, and how they're 11-minute episodes. So so this season of Infinity Train was one of the best seasons that I've been able to take in a while, and you go watch Infinity Train, you guys. It does a lot of interesting things.
If you haven't,
I think if you're 90 minutes in, you've watched it. Yeah,
I don't know. People
pause
listen
it now.
to podcasts
unless you're needle.
things.
Yeah. Okay. Allie, final thoughts.
Season 3, when? Please, now. Thank you.
Now, yeah.
Thank
Be
God.
great if they've been in production for a while on it, and we just get it in like mid-year.
I'm okay with that. Give it to us, please.
That'd be good. I doubt it, but that'd be good. Yeah.
Give it to me.
Oh, can I ask, did anybody watch those like in between season those one documentaries?
Yeah.
I saw a couple of them. They're pretty funny.
Okay, I knew they exist, but I'm like, do I want to sit down and watch them all?
I mean, they're fine. Like, they're really short, and they're like, I've seen a couple of them just from watching stuff on the app, and they're cute. Like, they're just little silly little, like one being cute.
Okay.
Yeah.
I guess that'll be the Infinity Train content for the
Or like,
That's
if
the
you feel
season
sad, you should watch them because they're so cute.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's actually a good tip.
It's a good tip. Yeah. Only watch the first half of the season if you're sad, and don't.
Oh yeah, no.
And like the last 2 minutes.
And the last 2 minutes. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's fine. Yeah. Yeah. Lake's great. Lake and Jesse forever.
Dylan is a Jake stan.
I'm
I
such a
am too.
Jake stan. I don't even. I'm
Except
not
it's
actually
not Jake.
much of a stan
It's
of Jake
Jake.
in Adventure Time.
No.
But
Oh.
this Jake I like better. Maybe I'm sure this will come up on the Identity podcast, but I love Lake's journey. I feel like my biggest thing would have been more specificity, Lake addressing her gender, her sexuality, like it's as these things tend to do on
Sexuality
shows we
might not be
cover.
necessary.
It's very probably well, at least it's discussing it. But it's like we never got that moment when she questions the gender surrounding her, and it probably isn't even in her mind too much because she didn't grow up in the same social constructs. I guess that's an interesting. But
Well, I think it's automatic. Like, obviously, we can talk about this more, but I wanted to throw in a thought I had earlier about it's. She was always Tulip's reflection, and Tulip identifies, as far as we know, as a girl. So that would be something that she probably just thought automatically and then hasn't considered at all. So that was probably that's a lot of what
I think similarly baked into us from what we're told growing up.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. No, that's really what talking about. Being queer coded and really and that Lake is gender nonconforming, and I think it's a really great representation of that. It would have been great if it was more explicit, but I think it's really hard not to she goes to the end of the episode and the season, she names herself Lake. Come on, guys.
It's
Come
definitely
on.
non-binary coded.
Yeah, I agree with that, and it's not even necessarily the explicitness in terms of representation, but this, I think I've talked about this, but the specificity I think is, and to that regard, I'd love to see a follow up with season with Lake. I assume we won't get that, but we could dive more into that in that case. But what we did get was so incredible, and the season was great, and still don't know if it's better or worse than book one. I think I probably personally enjoyed it more because of I don't know, but I also really like the mystery stuff. I would love if they could figure out a way to get some mystery back next season if they were interested in that. But
they're just going to do whatever they want. I'm chill with it.
Yeah. So whatever.
Another new genre. Let's go for
Western.
Real quick, we didn't talk about my favorite line in the entire episode.
Yes.
Which was when Wan goes, "You're a super rare foil version of my
best
friend too." I almost had a stroke when he said that.
Appreciated that, yes.
Super shiny.
I think the frog's lines were my favorite throughout the
frog was great, but in the finale, that's the
Toad.
Yeah.
Toad.
The Toad. I'm sorry.
Terry the Toad.
He's great. Okay, let us know what you thought of Terrence.
Man, I'm so sorry.
So sorry, Toad. Let us know what you thought of
the amphibians.
No, I actually feel terrible.
Did anyone do the meme of a picture of the toad with the kick me sign? This is an Amphibia season 1 or something. This is Amphibia. No. Okay. Let us know what you thought of Infinity Train Book 2. Comment section anywhere you're listening. Come to our Discord, overlyanimated.com/Discord. Hopefully more coverage to come, and I'm sure this will be a thing that's referenced on general topics, or when we're discussing other shows. Like, I could totally see us bringing up Lake's journey this season frequently, and just random other podcasts.
We can just have a podcast on Val and Lake.
Yeah, we could do Genlock Infinity Train comparison podcast. Yeah. I think there's a lot of things to both seasons extremely
Val and Lake would be
focused on
friends.
identity. Yes.
No.
Lake would fit in the Genlock universe,
absolutely,
considering her brutal.
Cammy would probably be okay with.
Cammy and Lake would be chill.
Yeah. Okay. There's a preview of our Genlock Infinity Train crossover podcast. Overlyanimated.com. Support us. Subscribe. Support us on Patreon. Patreon.com/overlyanimated. Thanks to our current patrons, especially our Patreon podcast. Allie, is this Allie? Okay. There you go.
Wait,
it's Allie. It's you.
Yeah, you.
I guess you're a patron.
Allie.
Thanks, Allie.
This is amazing.
I guess it's you. That actually was the order. And thanks to our Patreon executive producers, Ryan, Steve, Alex, Beaches, you, Michael, Needle, More Infinity Train stuff. Check out. We're finishing up Ruby. If you didn't hear our announcement, we're not doing the episode recaps anymore. We are finishing up Ruby Volume 7, though. We have the Owl House premiere coming up. A big day, I think, for episode.
Big beginning of the year, actually.
Owl House premiere was amazing. I'm not on that podcast, but that's my opinion of it. And then also these 2 episodes of Infinity Train were really good. This is a great day for animation. Check out our podcast on that and
2020.
Other stuff coming up. And Kipo coming soon. A lot of stuff happening. So all that at, I don't know if we'll podcast on it. No problem. All that at overlyanimated.com. I'll watch it. No promises. Thanks for listening, guys. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Wonder Beasts.
Bye.
What?